we got to talk about Colorado. I want to get started with that one straight away because I thought it was funny that I read a story in USA Today about Colorado self-reporting NCAA violations, right? Now, the headline here is they broke the rules, right? They got themselves in some hot water. But that's not uncommon, okay? If you've been around college football for some time, you understand the nature of self-reporting violations. If you see it, you call yourself on it, and you inform the NCAA that you saw it. What's interesting about this is that Colorado had 11 through Prime's first year at Colorado. And for perspective there, they had 2 at Ohio State, and they had 0 at Alabama in Nick Saban's last year. But some of these violations feel really antiquated and rather stupid, if not farcical. And I'm going to go through some of them just to kind of outline for you what it is that Colorado is doing, because you might think, oh man, they're getting in some NIL conversations and they're having the same sort of bad press that goes around, say, Tennessee, Florida, Miami, so forth, so on. Not really, because Prime is not wanted to pay anybody to play college football over at Colorado, right? And I think it's funny because Prime has done one better. He is offering them the opportunity to get the sort of exposure that leads to USA Today running a story about to get an 11 self-reported NCAA violations. Again, not serious penalties here, but penalties nonetheless. So an example of this would be they hosted a post-grad camp on May 30th last year for 350 players, right, that were in the transfer portal. Later, they found out that 7 of those players were not actually in the transfer portal, so they could not be at that camp. They reported that, and for that, they put themselves into a 2-week recruiting ban situation from June 15th to June 28th, which is not a small thing, right? You're usually recruiting right around that period anyway, right? Another example of this comes from social media, and that's where we see a bunch of these violations. One is Prime being on his IG, being overjoyed that he ended up getting a recruit's commitment, a wide receiver named Aaron Butler, but also going out of his way to be like, can I say his name? I can't say his name. I can just be excited that we got this recruit coming in. Well, didn't say his name, but we did see Aaron Butler on the IG live stream, and that was an NCAA violation, just him showing. Another thing, they are absolutely putting their business in the street. And the reason I say this is because they tweeted a spreadsheet of recruits that they were looking to get. Now, the point of said tweet was to show that, hey, we ain't forgot about these dudes. These are guys that are very high on our list. Just because you ain't heard that much about them doesn't mean that we're not recruiting them. Well, turns out publishing such a list on the tweets is an NCAA violation, okay? And we get more of this, right? A lot of this comes around just how many cameras, both camera phones and television cameras, that are on Prime's program from the moment that he decided to become head coach at Colorado, and also kind of really underlines that Prime, and anytime he wants to be out and about, we're talking, is going to make news, even when the news is not really much of talking. But as you could see, like, we're talking about it because just someone finding out that that guy had led a program that got 11 really minor violations is newsworthy. It's kind of newsworthy where when the Big 12 announced its schedule on Tuesday, he shows up on Undisputed talking about college football and the college football playoff. And this is where I think it's interesting, and this is why we're paying attention to Prime. The man goes 4-8 in 2023. Bad season by his standards, bad season by Colorado standards, even if, they increased their winning percentage by 400%. And says, we expect to make the college football playoff 2024. Why would he do that? Because we got 12 teams. But he still believes that they will be a good enough football team in this new Big 12 with their schedule to make the college football playoff. And you know what? I got to tell you, if they succeed in making the college football playoff with their schedule, yeah, that's going to be one of the toughest college football teams in the country, because they got North Dakota State, Nebraska, Colorado State on the schedule, along with the rest of the Big 12. Ain't no days off for the Colorado Buffaloes in 2024. But you don't have to make that hard, right? And I think you're making it hard by getting yourself in some unnecessary hot water with these self-imposed violations, right? Like, all right, my favorite of the self-imposed violations comes from an August 16th event where we had an intern lead the team and a half hour of yoga. But because that intern was not one of the 5 strength conditioning coaches that are allotted to FBS programs, they had to report that they let the intern lead a half-hour session of yoga. And they had to self-impose violation because an intern led a half hour of downward dog. Ridiculous. And here's the problem with this is the NCAA is the world's best punching bag. I mean, apart from like NASCAR Congress, so for someone where you just want to get mad at an entity for enforcing the rules, yeah, dog, I don't know that the NCAA has done anything but remind people how much they don't like the maid service that their institution employs, because that's what it is. The NCAA is a glorified maid service. The member institutions employ it. The NCAA does not employ anybody. But basically, since we had Division 1A and Division 2A, we've seen programs go at the NCAA's neck over things like this. So we had 1978, Division 1A, Division 2A, because the NCAA was divvying up television contracts. And by 1984, Georgia and Oklahoma had decided, no, we don't think you should be able to tell us which national games we're going to get to play in, be televised. And they took that all the way to the Supreme Court, and they won. Hence, we get these new conferences that are making these deals with television networks for millions and now billions of dollars, right? As we continue to get into this age of name, image, and likeness, and we start to really career toward paying players like employees with benefits and taxes, I wonder, I'm kind of annoyed at how many of y'all just get upset that players are going to have to learn to pay taxes. Dog, I've been paying taxes since I was 14 years old. Want to know why? Because I got a job. That's what playing football is. It's a job, right? But when you are usually having to do all these other things that go into paying your job, things that we're not going to worry about is whether or not you taking a selfie at your job. We're not going to worry about whether or not you on IG Live with the boss. We're not going to worry about whether or not you were working out for your job and they let an intern lead yoga at your job, right? The NCAA is enforcing rules that are antiquated, out of date, all these things that and yet it's a really easy way to just go at somebody else's neck when you made a problem, right? And that's why the self-reported part of this is such a big deal. If the NCAA investigated and then found these things, the penalties would be more severe because, well, they want you to tell on yourself at the college football level. But, like how many of us are going to go out of our ways to tell on ourselves in a capitalistic environment? Not a ton of us, right? And when you are prime, you're already going to get more eyeballs, but you're inviting this, right? I think he has to know that these things are coming, and he has to understand that we're going to talk about them. And when we talk about them, what does he have to say in response? So saying something like we expect to compete for a spot in the college football playoff in 2024 doesn't make him any different than the other 133 FBS teams that we got here, right? And yet, because he had the nerve to say it out loud, we're going to talk about it. I don't know, man. I'm raised to believe that I can do anything that any man has ever done. And 12 teams getting in the college football playoff seems like, 300% more than we're getting in before. And if you think that you could start the season the way they did last year and then carry that momentum through, you got a shot. But for prime, it ain't about whether or not they can carry that momentum. It's about whether or not they can keep the quarterback upright and whether or not that quarterback can finish the season, because Deion Sanders didn't, and they couldn't keep him upright. I ain't seen too much on the offensive line short of Jordan Seaton that's going to have me thinking they going to do anything to keep that man upright long enough to throw the football down the field to guys like Travis Hunter, guys like Xavier Weaver, guys like Jimmy Horn, right? To say nothing of, what's your defense going to be about, right? Like, if you're Texas Christian, you saw the Big 12 schedule coming out, you're going, hey, why isn't Colorado on this schedule? We would like another shot at this. We would like a third attempt to go at Colorado. But, that doesn't make them any different than anybody else that's going to get to play Colorado in 2024, because Prime is inviting so many people in and so many people want to be associated with Colorado football. You got folks like Dan Lanning with a superior football team absolutely gussying up his program and his players to go at Colorado's neck at a home game. All right? That's what it means. Now, if you are prime, you're looking at your players going, see, I have everybody looking at you. I'm doing my job. Now you got to do your job and go win football games. Yo, dog, that's gonna be tough. But you know what? That doesn't make him any different than one of my favorite coaches of all time, John Merritt, who coached Tennessee State, who did not coach practice at all. He let his coordinators coach practice. Then he showed up on game day in his Cadillac convertible, and he walked into the program in the locker room and said, "You owe me a victory, and you owe me a victory, and you owe me a victory," and kept going down the list, going, "I expect you to win. I have brought everything you want here. You're getting all the girls. You're getting all the attention. I need you to go win some football games." That's where Prime is in his progress right now. And we'll see if Colorado's football team can answer the bell come 2024. But again, that schedule is ridiculous. Like, whoever put North Dakota State on the schedule, that person need to get a talking to, because there ain't no wins there, right? But you know what? Can't be no worse than Oklahoma State putting South Dakota State on the schedule after taking an L from South Alabama in 2023, all right? If you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.